16 Olympians from the capital, a goalie's big return for the Sens, and Ottawa moves to shield kids from risky AI chatbots, all while an NFL legend sneaks in a hockey weekend. Quick Ottawa weather, sunny, a high near -7 and an overnight low around -20 degrees Celsius. Dress for the deep freeze. On the ice, the Ottawa Senators kept their win streak rolling with a 4-1 victory over the Devils, and the story was all about Linus Ullmark. In his first start in 35 days after a personal leave, he turned aside 26 shots, calm and composed, and gave the group a backbone in a game that could have tilted either way. Brady Tkachuk set the tone with a goal and 2 assists. Cozens buried a power play marker early in the third to break the deadlock. Stützle added one, and Shane Pinto sealed it with an empty netter. For New Jersey, Timo Meier had the lone tally, while Jake Allen was busy with 30 saves. A word on Pinto. He exploded early this season, cooled off since late November, and has been leaned on heavily for defensive minutes and the penalty. An empty netter won't fix a scoring slump overnight, but it can be the nudge a shooter needs. Given how much the Sens rely on him, nearly 19 minutes a night, finding that touch down the stretch could be the difference in their push. If you were scanning the crowd last night, you might have spotted a familiar football face. 2-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning was in town for a full-on hockey weekend, catching a Senators game and, more importantly, cheering on his daughter's team at a local minor hockey tournament. It's always a lift for the community when big names make time for grassroots hockey. Speaking of local milestones, the Ottawa Junior Canadians marked their 50th anniversary with something special. The first outdoor game in Eastern Ontario Junior Hockey League history against the Ottawa West Golden Knights. A lot of hands helped make that happen. 2 clubs, volunteers, and fans turning a celebration into a memory for players and families. It's exactly the kind of event that ties Ottawa's hockey past to its future. And the future is front and center this month. Ottawa is sending 16 athletes to the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympic Games. The Ottawa sports pages will be tracking them daily with recaps, previews, and schedules. So bookmark that if you want to follow every race, run, and routine. From rinks to pistes to tracks, the capital's talent will be on display on the world stage. To national politics now, where Prime Minister Mark Carney's recent speeches continue to reverberate at home and abroad. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, he criticized what he called the asymmetric enforcement and partial falsehoods of the international rules-based order, rhetoric that drew praise for craftsmanship from conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who nonetheless slammed Carney's record on diversifying Canada's economy away from the U.S. South of the border, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warned Carney not to virtue signal ahead of USMCA negotiations and to keep focus on Canadian interests, while President Donald Trump bristled at the Davos critique and reminded Canada of its reliance on the U.S. Back home, Carney's description of the Battle of the Plains of Abraham as symbolic of Canada's founding partnership triggered a sharp backlash in Quebec. Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet and Parti Québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon demanded an apology. Bottom line, the Prime Minister's words are landing with global applause in some quarters and political blowback in others, with USMCA talks looming. On Parliament Hill, an NDP push is making waves in the Canada-US conversation. MP Heather McPherson is urging the federal government to sanction Canadian companies that work with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, calling for denied export permits and the withdrawal of public subsidies or contracts for firms engaged with ICE. The backdrop: the Trump administration has deployed federal agents to cities including Los Angeles, Washington, Chicago, Charlotte, and Minneapolis, saying it's about tackling crime. Critics point to controversial ICE activities, with reports out of Minneapolis alleging 2 U.S. citizens were shot by federal agents and a 5-year-old child detained, sparking protests. McPherson says Canada shouldn't be complicit through commercial ties. Expect a heated debate over how Ottawa balances human rights concerns, cross-border politics, and trade. And that's not the only federal file with a cross-border dimension. Ottawa is preparing measures to protect young and vulnerable people from risky AI chatbots as part of its online safety bill. Federal Identity Minister Mark Miller says some chatbots behave like emotional companions and can veer into harmful territory, encouraging self-harm or helping to mask eating disorders. The approach, he says, aims to tackle potential toxicity without curbing free speech, by emphasizing accountability in how these tools are built and labeled. A McGill University report backing regulation stresses labeling AI-generated content and recognizing the persuasive power of chatty, authoritative bots. For parents and educators here in Ottawa, this is one to watch, given how quickly companion-style AI is showing up in teens' lives. The economy is also feeling the turbulence of great power competition, and even toys aren't immune. Mexico has hiked tariffs on Chinese imports, a move that ripples through plastic-heavy sectors like toys and autos. Companies such as Lego and Mattel face higher input costs as supply chains adjust. Mexican manufacturers say they'll absorb some pain if it sharpens their hand ahead of USMCA talks, while President Trump accuses China of routing goods through Mexico tariff-free and calls the current USMCA unfair to Washington. For Canadian retailers and consumers, even here in Ottawa, this could mean price pressure on some goods if costs stick. Another reminder that trade policy isn't abstract. It shows up on store shelves. On the provincial scene out west, Kamloops MLA Peter Millibar made his case to lead the BC Conservatives during a Lumbee meet and greet, leaning hard on experience and leadership credentials, fielding questions from locals and pitching a steadier hand. Leadership contests in big provinces often ripple into national conservative debates, especially with federal politics so tightly linked to pocketbook and energy issues. Quick spin around the NHL beyond Ottawa. The Penguins edged the Rangers 6-5 for their sixth straight win. Anthony Mantha and Nola Carrier each scored twice. Rickard Rakell hit his 10th of the season, and Erik Karlsson notched a milestone 700th assist. The Rangers mounted a late surge, but fell short, still without Igor Shesterkin, who's out indefinitely with a lower body injury. Before we go, one more nod to the Sens. 3 straight wins, a stabilizing performance in goal from Ullmark, Tkachuk leading like a captain, and contributions spread through the lineup. If Pinto can turn defensive excellence back into a bit more offense, Ottawa's February could get interesting fast. That's it for today. Bundle up. Sunny skies, but it's a sharp cold. High near -7, low around -20 degrees Celsius. We'll be back with more local stories, national context, AI and climate coverage, and of course, your Ottawa Senators.